Guess what I'm allowed to say now? That laptop did belong to Hunter Biden. So what other conspiracy theories down the line will we be able to openly communicate about? Hello there, you 5.3 million awakening wonders, joining me on a journey that we make together towards truth with all of its complexity, with all of its nuance, with the changes around what truth is permissible at what time. Remember, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to us now. And if you don't belong to my mailing list yet, you better bloody well join it. I need you to. You know why that might be. So, we got to talk to you today about Hunter Biden's laptop. Ah, you saucy little devil, you keeper of secrets. Now, just to let you know, I don't care about addiction and all of the salacious stuff. I'm a recovering drug addict. I've done stuff in my life, man. I'm interested in the financial things, and I'm even more interested in the fact that the New York Post were prevented from tweeting about the story. And what does that suggest about free press, free media, freedom of speech? Stuff that I know you are interested in. And if you are and you're in the UK, come see me live all over the joint. I'm in Plymouth, Carlisle, Stockton-on-Tees, Bristol, Blackpool. Blackpool's going to be a fantastic event. It's worth you making the journey there. Meditations, questions and answers, an opportunity for awakening by the sea. But let's get into this news right now and see if we can discern some truth from this stuff while I dress as a young Obi-Wan Kenobi in me Obi-Wan Kenobi. The New York Times has finally acknowledged that Hunter Biden's business dealings are legitimate news. Oh, so we're allowed to talk about it now. Of course, we talked about it last week as well. You can see the video. We talked about it, I think, at the time in a much more cautious and circumspect way. Now we can openly talk about it. And again, I want to remind you, Hunter Biden, as a recovering addict, if that's where Hunter is in his journey, he has my sympathy, my empathy. I don't care about people's problems with mental health and the expressions of those mental health conditions, even though I recognize it sometimes negatively impacts other people. What I'm interested in is the mainstream media suppressing information during a general election because it's misinformation, and then down the line, when it's sort of too late, admitting, oh yeah, that was true. Why didn't you report it? Oh, well, it might have made people not trust Joe Biden. Okay, well, now what do we do? Because we've had that election. Sorry. So yeah, the New York Times have acknowledged it with a story on the tax affairs of the president's son, including the sentences. Those emails were obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. Just saying those words a few short months ago was forbidden. You were not allowed to say that kind of stuff. That was the crazy territory of the conspiracy theorist. And I know a lot of you say in the comments below, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 months. Well, this is yet another example of that phenomena. The email and others in the cache were authenticated by people familiar with them and with the investigation. The admission comes 6 months after a Politico writer published a book that also confirmed that the laptop emails were authentic, but the original scoop belonged to the New York Post, which broke its laptop story in October 2020, only to meet a media wall of denial and distortion. So now you know where media biases lie. As you know, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, I have no alliance with any political party. I think that they systemically operate in conjunction with one another to prevent real change from happening. They're the very kind of centralised force that needs to be ended. If voting did anything, they'd ban it. But you have got to recognise that people that are of a particular political persuasion will use that information to highlight inefficiencies within the Democrat Party and their evident supporters in the media. I'm just letting you know that when it comes to this particular issue, I'm not like, see, the Republicans are right, because that's not how I see the world at all. My disappointment in the Democratic Party comes from a historic recollection that they were meant to be about the kind of things I was told I was meant to believe in. And as I awaken from that dream, I want to point out that I've not awoken into some other political ideology. It's hopefully a kind of personal transcendence that's about localism and power for ordinary people. We should devolve power to as smaller communities as possible so you and I and all of us could have as much power and involvement in the meaningful management of our own lives, our own businesses and families, communities as possible. That's what I believe. Who cares though? Because, like, you know what I mean? I might be an idiot. Look what I'm wearing, for Christ's sake. Rather than attempt to confirm the emails, nearly all the media at the time ignored the story or fact-checked it as false. So even fact checks are propaganda. That's what fact checks are. It's literally called a fact check. It sounds, oh, that's been fact checked. You know, when you see underneath these videos, maybe it says Wikipedia. You can't talk. Well, who decided that? And what are you going to decide in 6 months? This in-kind contribution to candidate Joe Biden was all the more egregious given other evidence supporting the Post scoop. Neither Hunter Biden nor the Biden campaign denied that the laptop was Hunter's. I remember people saying at the time that this lack of denial was an indication of its veracity. I think maybe Glenn Greenwald, who's one of those people who's become like maligned and marginalised, oh, he's a right-wing voice. But me, I can't help but think that that dude broke the Snowden story. And I'm sure anybody that you speak to long enough, you're going to find things you agree with and disagree with. But what he does do, it seems to me at least, is approach journalism with a great degree of intelligence and open-mindedness. I'm sure he's got his biases, and those people that are criticising him and condemning him, you think they don't have biases? Now we know they do. How are you going to have an open democracy where people don't consider the possibility of what are still called conspiracy theories when things like this get proven to be true? What other things that are forbidden to be discussed might be proven to be true down the line when it's all too late? 75 years in the future, like the information about vaccines that they tried to kick 3 generations down the road, or the information about assassinations. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not interested in stuff that there's not evidence for or paper trails for, but I bloody well am interested in stuff where there is proven, demonstrable evidence of malpractice. And Hunter's former business partner, Tony Bobulinski, went public with documents backing up some of the laptop's contents. The herd of media conformists also echoed the speculation of obviously partisan intelligence officials. Some 50% of these officials circulated a statement peddling the Russian disinformation line, even as they admitted they have no evidence. So it's just a kind of a scorched earth deluge policy, just spill out condemnation and criticism. And what do? The bewildered herd. We don't know what to believe anymore. Oh, I think, no, that's misinformation. It's Russiagate, isn't it? And you can't trust it, and it's collusion. And like, how are you meant to discern? Firstly, and I mean this really seriously, look after yourself. Stay awake personally. Make sure you've got practices that keep yourself together, because the outside world ain't your friend. It's trying to bamboozle you the entire time. I don't mean nature and your community and your friends and family, although possibly some of them. What I mean is the media machine does have an agenda. And I don't really see why that's a controversial thing to... Well, I do. It's a controversial thing to say because if you point out the agenda, then it undermines the agenda and it makes people more circumspect. It makes people more sceptical. It makes people less likely to buy products they don't need. It makes people less likely to vote compliantly. It makes people more disobedient, and they need you compliant and dumb. So I do know. I'm pretending not to know. Just, I don't know why. It was a rhetorical device. I know full well why it is. The result was a blackout of the Hunter news. Twitter blocked the Post's account for nearly 2 weeks, censorship, and Facebook used algorithms to quash the story. So, Twitter and Facebook, we're just platforms. We're not responsible for the content on our platforms. Okay, then. This deprived voters of information they might have wanted to know before Election Day. Did you want to know that before Election Day? Mr. Bobulinski, Mr. Bobulinski, Mr. Bob Bobulinski, Mr. Bobulinski, Mr. Bob Bobulinski. You were thinking it, so I did it. Also provided the Wall Street Journal with documents showing Hunter was looking to use the Biden name to profit from a business deal with a Shanghai-based company with ties to the Chinese government. One May 2017 expectations email from Hunter associate James Gilliar shows Hunter receiving 20% of the equity in the venture, with another 10 held by H for the big guy. Mr. Bobulinski, Mr. Bob Bobulinski, says the big guy is Joe Biden. Okay, so Joe Biden potentially, according to Mr. Bobulinski, is profiting from a deal with a Shanghai-based company with ties to the Chinese government. I don't know if that's an important piece of information to have before a general election where Biden's taken to the pulpit to say that Trump, the other dude, is unreliable and corrupt and all things that you may or may not agree with. That's up to you. It's none of my business. But this ain't the kind of thing you want in the papers, is it, before that election? Obviously not, because it wasn't. To this day, the Bidens have not had to explain their business arrangement. Another thing, get the Bidens to explain their business arrangements. Get anyone that's in a position of political power to be absolutely transparent about their business arrangements and not have any business arrangements that could potentially now or at any point in the future benefit from their political position. That's a rule, isn't it? Is that hard to type that up? The emails make clear that Hunter was cashing in on the Biden name, including as a board member of Burisma, a Ukrainian gas company. Ukraine, has that been in the news lately? That influence peddling was a potential political liability for Mr. Biden, which was why the facts deserved an airing before the election. That's all anyone is saying. Just tell the truth. let people make their own decisions, possibly have systems that are better able to reflect the will of ordinary people, rather than foreclosing through loopholes and walls and various other techniques any meaningful way that ordinary people are able to express their will democratically, or through protest, or through free speech online, till in the end you just have like a kind of a blade of power slicing through every aspect of your life, preventing you from ever really being free. This is from Glenn Greenwald. My position on him I've made clear already. The backlash against this reporting was immediate and intense, leading to suppression of the story by US corporate media outlets and censorship of the story by leading Silicon Valley monopolies. This disinformation campaign about the Biden emails was then used by big tech to justify brute censorship of any reporting or on discussion of this story, easily the most severe case of pre-election censorship in modern American political history. Isn't that troubling after the farrago around Trump, about whom I've done many videos, and you can look for yourself and see whether or not you think I'm a pro-Trump person. I know loads of you are, and I respect our right to be different from one another. But how do you think people feel about having that candidate criticised, having their choices criticised, being condemned as like idiots and deplorables and mugs and fools? Meanwhile, there's this level of censorship, and not only censorship of the issue itself, but discussion around the issue and a sort of a concomitant condemnation of any discourse that approaches that area. So the only information that's not misinformation is the information that they want you to have, because that information is the information that benefits them and leads to the outcomes that they want. Do you not see how that leads to a cynical populace? Do you not see how that's making us awaken, making us doubtful, making us genuinely open to new ways of governing ourselves, governing our communities, making us not trust centralized power in any form, not trusting the mainstream media, not trusting big business, because we can see the working out. Big tech censored that information. They stopped it from being discussed. It was true, it was legitimate, and according to Mr. Bob Bobolinsky, even potentially directly involves Joe Biden. I'm not in a position to say whether that allegation is true or not. Of course I'm not. I'm saying the source here, cited on this little bit of paper that isn't mine. I don't even know where this came from. It fell out of the sky. I got it from a repair shop in Delaware. So don't that make you a bit more open to the idea that maybe you're not right? You know, like maybe the people that are saying, hey, they're idiots, you can't... Let's have a conversation. We got to have a conversation. We got to be open about this. We can't just go around conspiracy theorists, shut up, conspiracy theorists, ban them, conspiracy theorists. There's the truth. Whatever else is true, both the CIA media disinformation campaign in the weeks before the 2020 election and the resulting regime of brute censorship imposed by big tech are of historic significance. The admission by the New York Times that this archive and the emails in it were real all along proves that a gigantic fraud was perpetrated by the country's most powerful institutions. What matters far more than the interest level of various partisan factions is the core truths about US democracy revealed by this tawdry spectacle. And I suppose what Greenwald means by core truths is the possibility that the media, big business, big tech, the government operate, collaborate with one another in order to ensure particular outcomes, presumably favourable outcomes. These are not claims that you would make without being able to see what money is spent on lobbying, what legislative decisions are made, what Congress people receive money from which particular platforms, what kind of decisions are made by those Congress people and those lawmakers, and how that might benefit and advance the interest. This is not stuff that's being made up. This is not, oh, there's these and I think they're from another and I saw them there, the hood on and there was an owl. This is not that. This is, Look at what's happening. Hit me up in the comments. Give us a thumbs up. If you're not subscribing yet, subscribe. Let's grow this channel together. Let's create something beautiful. God knows we have to. And we can do it together. That's the great thing about all of this. All of this corruption is leading to something beautiful. I know it. And you know it too. It's possible. If you want to come see me live, come see me live. I'm all over the UK. If you like this video, have a look at one of these. If you ain't signed up to my mailing list, you know you better, baby. And most importantly of all, please stay free.